And welcome back everyone to this beautiful Saturday morning. I am Mate Sipper. Let's see what the weather is doing. Partially cloudy with a light breeze. Expect lots of pollen. Ugh, that's no fun. But, oh well, at least the flowers will be happy. Get all their pollination done. Come by the shop and check out the new rods I'm selling. They're the best money can buy, and you can customize them with different kinds of tackle. Hope to see you soon. So, we might get around to that. Probably not today. We really do not have a lot of money. And kind of as odd as this is, even though we don't have a lot of money, I think I'm going to go mining today. And we're just going to try to get deep. I think tomorrow we'll get back to fishing. But yeah, we really do not have the funds that I require to kind of enjoy the a more productive summer. So yeah, we will get to that. I'm gonna actually leave the recording going today as I water my crops, because we're really only going to be watering like 5 crops. I'm not sure when the beans are going to come up again, so it might not be worth me watering it. And then I have no idea what these are that I planted, but hopefully they come up tomorrow. I know that this one's a coffee bean, but I'm not sure what those two are. So yeah, hopefully they produce tomorrow, otherwise we're kind of out of luck there. And these potatoes, I think we'll just offload them in our box here. I'm not going to wait for Pierre to open his doors. Kind of excuse me, it's kind of a waste of time for me. However, I am going to do 2 things. First off, we're going to grab a couple of these oak trees, and we're going to go plant these over by the bus, just so we can get some more oak resin going. So for those of you who do not know, you can plant some trees kind of outside of your farm. And these are the wild trees like oaks, mahoganies, maples. You can plant them outside of your farm. But the trees, like fruit trees, you have to plant those on your farm. You can put things off your farm too. You just have to be really careful not to put them someplace that someone will walk, otherwise it will be destroyed. And let me look here. So it looks like Leo wants herring. Well, we're not going to be doing that today. But maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow with our fishing we could swing down to the beach and pick up some herring for her. I might put a torch back here. Add a little bit of extra light over here. I also might drop a torch right here and here and maybe right there. Just add a little bit more light when we walk home from the city. But yeah, so with that, we're going to head to the mines and see how deep we can get. Hopefully we can get down to the 80s today. I don't know if we will, because that would be a gain of 20. That's quite a rush. So I don't know if I can do that kind of a hustle. But you never know. So kind of going into the combat of this game. This game is set up in kind of the way that old Nintendo Entertainment System and Super Nintendo Entertainment System games were set up, with like actual combat, I guess, kind of like Secret of Mana or Evermore, like any of those, where you swing but only in like the 4 directions around you. And so with that, it creates some kind of odd areas, I guess. Not that there's like dead areas where you can't swing, but like swinging over here is really weird, and swinging to the back left as well. And the reason why is just because it's kind of like you have to either wait for the swing to start, or the swing happens like a little bit before you were planning on it. And so ideally you're going to get enemies in front of you or behind you. So that way you don't have to worry about kind of hitting one of those weird zones. But yeah, no, this game they did really well with the combat. And there's not really a quote-unquote dead zone, which is really nice. So, I mean, I've never programmed a game, so I don't really know quite how the combat mechanics of this game work. However, I do know from a 3D modeling perspective, there can be some weird effects that happen with that. I've never done 3D modeling myself, but my wife, she's very artistic in a lot of the things she does. And so she used to play a game that was very similar to Death by Daylight on Steam. And when it got shut down, her and a bunch of friends decided that they were going to revive it. They were going to create essentially their own game. And it never really came to fruition. Some things came up and it kind of... Well, I don't know if it fell apart. They might still be working on it, but my wife is off the project. She doesn't really do it anymore. It was more of a passion thing for her, and she just didn't have time to dedicate to it. And so I was aware as to how some of the 3D modeling works because she actually did create some 3D models for the game, as well as 2D drawings or concepts for some of the characters that they could include in the game. But yeah, as I said, it was a passion project that I think kind of to some degree has died out, but I don't know. I'll have to talk to her about it. That's not that I haven't really seen her working on it too much. So yeah, and then I just wanted to finish the story before I went into this, but that book that was dropped is called The Monster Compendium. So you get it as a random drop from from monsters. And the way that the drop works for it is kind of odd. So both that one and the Jewels of the Sea, which we also picked up from fishing, how they work is they become more likely to be dropped the more you don't get them from following an enemy. And so you get kind of an odd situation where you're almost guaranteed to get it, but you're never going to get guaranteed. And now that we've gotten it, the game is gonna... Like, we can still get it, but it's not as common. But that book, I believe it gives us double loot occasionally. So I'm going to double check that. Monsters have a small chance to drop double loot. Yeah, so if you get that, as well as the Bandit Ring, which is the one that you get for getting rid of all the dust sprites, you will pretty much always get double drops from mobs. And it is super powerful. It's just a good way to grind up money or rare drops later on. If for whatever reason you're going for some of the rare drops. This game does have a few, but it's not really, I guess, necessary to get them. I think one of my favorite rare drops is actually the Lucky Ring. It might be called the Lunar Ring. Because what it does is it puts light around you, and it also gives you luck. And then if you put magnetism on it, it basically becomes the Iridium Band, but a little bit better, in my opinion. And the Iridium Band is a combat ring that you get once you get to level 9 in combat. I'm not saying that's not bad, or that ring is bad. I'm just saying that I don't really find the 10% damage increase it offers as good as, say, like double mob drops. And so I don't find myself using it, or when I do, I try to mix it with one of the other rings, I guess. I'm just trying to offload all these things that we only have one of. Try to increase my inventory space artificially here. I think the next item we're going to chew through is probably the cave carrots. Yeah, 4 p.m. and we're down to 67. We're doing pretty good. I don't think we're going to make it down to 80. We're probably, more realistically, going to get to 75. I'm not really feeling that the luck has been that great. I didn't check the spirits today. I guess I could have. But we're just... Like, it's lucky enough that I'm not feeling robbed to be down here, but it's not really like super lucky where I'm getting tons of staircases. Because like I'm getting decent drops for like iron and coal and like some of this other stuff, but it's just not like what I'd call like a lucky day. But who knows, maybe it's just because this is the first one I'm recording for this session today and the game knows that I'm planning to do kind of a longer session today. So it's like, we can't make him too excited yet. We have to kind of lead him along, kind of like what casinos do to you. Although line up all but the last wheel in this slot machine. And that way you're like, man, I almost had it. Or like when you win 20 bucks and you're like, well, I'm down 200, but maybe this time, because I got lucky. I got a 10, I got a 20, I got another 50. So like right now I'm feeling like I'm even and really you're under like, like 140. But it's an interesting tactic that they use. It's also why, like, if you look at lotteries, and this goes for sweepstakes, which basically are lotteries to some degree, as well as lotteries. They offer a lot of like small prizes or consolation prizes, and it's just so that way you feel like you were so close, but you didn't get it. I remember working at the grocery store. There was this lady that she was one of the grocery managers, and every day on lunch she'd buy 5 lotto tickets. She said the daily work budget for her lotto, I think 20, because she'd only buy like the cheap tickets. And if she won, she'd usually like add that back to her gambling budget or her gambling account. And I don't think that she ever won anything big. She did have a few wins where she had to go down and fill out the form, like proof of identity with the lottery commission. But she never won like enough that she could retire off like the lottery, for instance, which anyone who plays the lottery to retire is not the most knowledgeable about statistics, because it is quite a long shot. Not saying you won't win, I'm just saying that, man, is it a long shot. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know, I guess I say that. I've, like, when me and my wife go to casinos, it's not something we like frequent or anything like that, but while we lived in southern Utah, we'd drive out to Mesquite, which is kind of like the northern part of Nevada, and it's, well, they advertise it as what Vegas used to be. And so it's not like a bad little area for gambling. We'd usually get like a king suite at the Eureka, and walk down to the casino and just play the games. Or we'd go over to Casablanca, and my wife had a membership there, and we'd go there to have a good time. We'd never, I don't know, we were never going like with the intention of making our money back, I guess you could say. Because to be honest with you, a casino's kind of like going to Chuck E. Cheese, but for adults. And I guess for those of you who are too young to know what Chuck E. Cheese is what inspired Five Nights at Freddy's. It was a greasy pizzeria that also offered arcade games and motion simulations, and some of them even were pretty big. I think the most common one I can think of now, since Chuck E. Cheese really isn't a thing anymore, is One Shot. Well, One Shot might be more of a barcade. But yeah, basically it's just a place you can go, and they usually have like arcade games and like tickets that you convert to like prizes or whatever, We didn't go too often, but I remember we'd occasionally go to the Chuck E. Cheese when I was growing up. And my dad didn't like Chuck E. Cheese, which I guess makes sense because there wasn't really anything for him But a funny story about that actually is my parents, when they got married, so depending on the country you live in, there's like a minimum age for gambling, and I don't remember what it is here in the US. I know it's 21 now, but I don't remember what it was when my parents were like newlyweds. So my dad and my mom are about 4 years apart in age. And with that being the case, on the way to their honeymoon, I don't remember where they went, they stopped over in Vegas. And they stayed at one of the casino hotels, which is a pretty common thing to do just because casino hotels tend to be relatively cheap. They expect you to like gamble. That way they can make all their money back. And so they were staying at one of the casino hotels just kind of on their way to, I think they were going to maybe Disney World or somewhere in California. And so my dad, he was winning all this money. And my mom kept coming in asking for more money. And so then my mom got ID'd, probably at one of the slots. She might have been at the tables. My dad was probably playing the tables because my dad likes blackjack. Or my dad would play blackjack. And so my mom got ID'd probably at one of the slots after she rejected a beverage. And so they kicked her out and my dad had to leave and he had to forfeit all of his winnings because he admitted a minor into the casino. And I mean, as I said, like, I think my mom, because my mom was obviously age of consent, so she could get married. My parents didn't like have my grandparents sign a form to like let them get married or anything, which, funny thing about that, they actually probably would have rejected it. My grandparents did not like my dad at all. And my dad argues that my grandma still doesn't like him. I don't believe that, but my grandparents didn't like him because he was a high school dropout that grew up in Southern California, and so he kind of had a rough early life. And my grandparents were just concerned that he wouldn't be able to provide for my mom. And so because of that, like, there's a lot of interesting contention. But yeah, so my parents got kicked out of a casino when they were newlyweds. And with that, we're actually going to make it to bed on time, surprisingly. Nice, level up combat. Did we level up mining? Oh, we did. Perfect. Okay, so this is a really interesting thing to pick. I love Geologist, but I don't pick it. So when I first started playing this game, I used to always pick Geologist. But I don't pick it anymore. I always pick Miner, and the reason why is because 1 ore per vein tends to add up a lot more than like selling your diamonds and stuff. I will say though that like the Geologist does lead to some really good perks later on. It's just for me personally, it doesn't fit my playstyle anymore. And so with that, we're going to end off day 27. This has been Monte Sipper, wishing you a good rest of your day. And thank you for watching. Bye.